Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen, and today I want to talk about five-star albums. Really simple concept. Just want to show you some five-star albums that I think are just pretty much perfect. And let's get started. Blondie, Eat to the Beat from 1979, and parallel lines from Blondie. I talked about that in a couple of videos back, how much I love that one, but I actually like this one even more. This is my favorite Blondie album all the way through, just one killer track after another, and they're pretty much all different sounding. I mean, they got a little Motown feel going on with the song Slow Motion. They go a little reggae with Die Young, Stay Pretty. The hardest part is just a great pop rock song, Union City Blues, incredible, of course. Get a little punk rock in their roots with Eat to the Beat and Living in the Real World. All these songs are incredible. Eat to the Beat from 1979, my favorite Blondie album, Atomic, on here. It's like a country disco mix, if you can imagine what that might sound like. Absolutely incredible. Like I said, just about every song. She even provides you with a nice little lullaby called Sound Asleep, and then gets all frantic and freaked out because her lover Victor is going to go in this total like distress song called Victor. The cool thing about this album too is when it originally came out, it also came out on an RCA video disc. And they made an actual music video for every single song on here. So it was pretty cool. That's since been released on VHS back in the early 80s. And you can get it these days on a CD, DVD version of this Eat to the Beat from Blondie. Like I said, five-star albums. That's what I'm doing on this video. And what I wanted to do, I had two kind of criteria for this. I wanted to show albums from artists that aren't really shown a whole lot in the vinyl community. So I'm not really concentrating on like the Beatles or like Pink Floyd or Black Sabbath or Rolling Stones or Bob Dylan or anything like that. These are artists you don't see too much of. I mean, yeah, people show them, but they're not like the big hitters. And I also wanted to do 10 completely different albums from each other, so 10 completely different sounds. Here's a different sound. Dr. John and Gree Gree. He's Dr. John the Night Tripper on this one. This is his debut. This one sounds fantastic. It's a Speaker's Corner pressing. So they're like one of my favorite audio. They are my favorite audiophile pressing organization, because they prove that you can do audiophile pressings that sound great, that don't break the bank. They're not going to cost $150 or whatever for one listening experience. So yeah, Dr. John, the Night Tripper, Gree Gree. This is where you get into like the New Orleans, deep into it. Deep into the voodoo and the hoodoo and all that stuff. Turn out the lights, light some incense and some candles, and get a little doll with some pins in it, and check out Gree Gree. All the way through, he never breaks the character. It never breaks the sound. You don't get like a love song out of nowhere. It's totally an experience all the way through, and there's not really another Dr. John album that sounds like this. Now, he gets into the funky New Orleans kind of fun stuff, and he's got a lot of great albums, like In the Right Place is a great album, and he's got several of them. But this is the one where it takes on this whole atmosphere. And like I said, it keeps it going all the way through. Songs like Mama Roo and I Walk on Gilded Splinters. But the titles don't really matter that much. It's a full-on album experience. One thing I love about that. Aretha Franklin, Spirit in the Dark from 1970. If this is not my favorite Aretha Franklin album, it's probably my second favorite. It kind of goes between this and her debut for Atlantic called I Never Loved a Man the Way I Loved You. But Spirit in the Dark is kind of where the production technicalities kind of are raised up just a little bit. You get a nice full bass sound in here. It's not kind of that kind of flat kind of tambourine thing that's going on earlier. Now, Aretha Franklin albums, a lot of them are stellar on Atlantic. I mean, but this one is just a little bit more stellar. So definitely a five-star album. She's got several. But I love this one just because of the whole feel of the album and the great song selections on here as well. Why I Sing the Blues closes this off. Aretha does that, tears it up. You knew she would. Aretha Franklin, obviously, her voice was a national treasure, and on this album, she really proves it. You got fun songs like Pullin'. You got her cover of Honest I Do. You got her cover also of The Thrill Is Gone, the BB King song. She stole it. She stole it. It's no longer BB King's song. It is now hers on this album. Like I said, stellar music all the way through, 12 great songs, but the best one is the very first one called Don't Play That Song. It's the one where she's like, you lied, you lied, you lied. I'm not going to try to imitate Aretha Franklin, obviously, but what an incredible way to start an album. If you listen to this album, you like that song, you're going to love the rest of the album too. That was actually co-written by Ahmet Ertegun, the head of Atlantic Records at the time. So you got label executives writing incredible songs. It was originally done by Ben E. King, but again, Aretha Franklin just tears it up. Yeah, don't play that song. You definitely want to play that song. And it kicks off Spirit in the Dark. Jane's Addiction. I told you this is going to be a mixed bag of five-star albums. Jane's Addiction and Nothing Shocking. Probably need to cover that up. You can check out my Instagram for my own. I did a little tribute to this cover. If you don't, maybe you don't want to check that out. But I don't have any fire on my head though. But this is a great. I'm gonna turn it around. This is a great album from 1988. This is a little. This is my favorite Jane's Addiction album. This is a little more serious. They get a little more fun and quirky on it, like stuff like Ritual del Habitual. But this one is a lot more political. It's a lot more serious. It's a lot more, kind of morose in places. But the energy on here is through the roof, and the sound of this album, at least the vinyl record, is just. It just blasts right out of the speakers, crystal clear sound. And you don't get a lot of that with the later 80s, especially alternative stuff. A lot of it's kind of bogged down with a lot of production and a lot of effects and stuff. But this is crystal clear, incredible. Mountain Song is on here. For that alone, that's one of my favorite. That is my favorite Jane's Addiction tune. And for years I thought he was saying, "'Cause you know, honey, 'cause you know, sweetheart." He's actually saying, "Cash in now, Miss Smith," which I like my version better. But anyway, all kinds of great songs on here. Everyone is full of shit. That's a lyric from, the cat agrees. That's a lyric from the first song. And, talking about how the news is all entertainment. Yeah, how things have changed. Because you remember how they used to talk about celebrities and movie stars on the news? And people used to complain there was too much pop culture on the news. And now these days, it's like, that is the news. The politicians have become the celebrities. And everybody's just trying to get on Instagram. Yeah, Jane's Addiction and nothing shocking. George Thorogood and the Destroyers from Delaware, and their debut album, just self-titled. What a great, fun bar band, blues band, rock album. No pretension at all. Great guitar playing, obviously, from George Thorogood. This is his peak right from the beginning. It's a lot of just basic, just fun stuff. It's like you walked into the bar and heard like one of the best blues rock guitar acts playing. Basically is what this is. And it's got a lot of great songs on here. Madison Blues is on here. And of course the extended one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. That just goes on and on and on. Party tunes on here. You throw this on, you just want to grab a drink and have a party. What I love about this though is the complete and utter lack of pretense. There's no like pompousness on here that would come later. Like, a lot of the later 80s blues rock people, they get a little precious with their presentation, if you know what I mean, like some Billy Vera and the Beaters stuff with, if I could just hold you. Oh, that bullshit. There's none of that on here. Just fun stuff all the way through, expertly played. Don't really hear a lot about this guy, but George Thorogood and the Destroyers, the debut. If you want something completely different, off the wall, check out German progressive rock group Cottonwood Hill. Or maybe they are Brain Ticket. There's been some discrepancy. They started off being called Cottonwood Hill, and the album was called Brain Ticket, and then things got switched around, and then the band is Brain Ticket, and the album is Cottonwood Hill. Whatever it is, it's pretty incredible stuff. This is like one of my favorite German progressive rock albums because it is way out there. This just infectious organ riff that just goes on and on through most of the album. It gets interrupted for a bit by Beethoven's Fifth Symphony intro, and then goes right back into it. This woman named Dawn Muir is just freaking out through half the album, screaming about, they're here, where am I? I exist, oh no, don't do it. And, yes, you will have sex. And just freaking out through the whole thing. She's very panicked, but it's a great listen. This album, I will say, is not for everyone. It's definitely for me, though. If you want something a little avant-garde, a little something way out there, check out Brain Ticket and Cottonwood Hill, or maybe it's Cottonwood Hill from Brain Ticket. Either way, some fantastic stuff, but again, way, way out there. And a lot of the same riff going on. It really puts you in a thing there. And it also used to come with a warning sticker on here that says, warning, this record will destroy your mind. And the story goes, because it had that sticker on there, people freaked out and it got banned in certain territories because of the sticker. Yeah, warning, this record will destroy your mind. As if a record can destroy your mind. Oh wait, Kid Rock. I forgot. A record can probably destroy your mind. New York Dolls. Their first album is great. So is their second album. Too much, too soon. A lot of people are loving that first album, talk about it, but this one doesn't get talked about as much. It's just as good. I love it. So it's obnoxious, but obnoxious in a good way. It's a party album. You got to crank this all the way up. And the record, the vinyl, sounds terrific. A lot of good bass going on in there to just rumble the speakers when you got it cranked up. And a lot of characters in this. Puss in Boots. You got Child child, story characters, children's characters. You got, Charlie Chan making an appearance, and Bad Detective. A lot of great stuff on here. A lot of characters. And yeah, New York Dolls was one of those groups I had to kind of discover on my own. They were never on the radio, like George Thorogood or, Aretha Franklin. These guys, I'd heard about, you read about them in Rolling Stone. They were never on the radio. It was a time when you couldn't just stream stuff. You had to actually go out and take a chance and buy it. And I'm glad I did, because what a killer album from New York Dolls. Like I said, first album is incredible too. Either one of them, go with either one of them, or do what I did and go with both. Okay, Donny Osmond, My Best to You. Now, you might be thinking, Donny Osmond, this is a 5-star album, man. This is killer. It's got all his hits on there, and it takes a couple of listens, but you really start to recognize what a really great artist he was. And this is definitely a 5-star album. And, throw this on, crank it up, and you'll be surprised, I think, at how good this is. And if you think I'm joking around, you are correct. I am totally joking around about fucking Donny Osmond. Okay, Curtis Mayfield and Superfly with the opening flap here. I mean, I probably talked about this before. I know I've talked about this before, but this is my favorite Curtis Mayfield. The soundtrack to Superfly. It definitely kind of tells the story of the movie. This soundtrack, the movie is kind of cheesy and that kind of like 70s action movie, a lot of kind of goofy stuff going on. It's kind of hard to take the whole thing seriously. It's got a montage in it where people are just snorting cocaine. It's like a commercial for cocaine. The album, though, I think is supposed to be taken pretty seriously, and it is some serious street life stuff in here. Songs like the title track, Superfly, absolutely incredible. One of the best funk songs of the 70s as far as I'm concerned. You've got Pusher Man in here. You've got Freddie's Dead. Like I said, you probably, the album is going to spoil some aspects of the movie, because just by looking at the title, you already know that some character named Freddie is going to die. But yeah, just incredible. The instrumentals are great. It tells the story of the movie without sounding like you need to see the movie to appreciate it. All these songs stand out on their own. The first song too, Running Child, Running Wild. Excellent stuff from Curtis Mayfield. The whole production of this, the percussion, the feel of it, that deep, deep funk of the 70s. It's all right here. And of course, the great vocals from Curtis Mayfield as well. Going to the CDs for the 90s, the Dandy Warhols, Come Down. The British thing going on here, but it's kind of more like, it's not so much Blur and Oasis. It's kind of more of a dreamy, kind of trancy kind of feel on this. Songs like Boys Better speed things up a little bit and get a little more jolly. But that first song on here, Bein', will just put you in this mood where you just want to kind of lay back and just hear the whole thing. And you should. It's great all the way through. The big single off here, Not If You Were the Last Junkie on Earth, with its lyrics about, I never thought you'd be a junkie because heroin is so passé. Do you know people like that wouldn't be a drug addict because it's not in style? Yeah, the Dandy Warhols calling people out. And I think that a lot of that was calling out their rival band at the time, the Bryan Jonestown Massacre, which I had a tambourine of the Bryan Jonestown Massacre, by the way. I don't think I've ever shown that before. A little keepsake there from those guys. But yeah, great album. They've got Tales from Urban Bohemia as well, but I like this one better. The Dandy Warhols, Come Down. Check out that from the 90s. Going back to the 60s for some psychedelic music from Tomorrow. If you've heard the Nazareth song, My White Bicycle, these guys did the original version of that, but there's all kinds of killer tunes on here. Hallucinations, totally psychotic, about an LSD trip, pretty explicit stuff, because a lot of the psychedelic stuff from this era anyway, kind of dance around what's actually going on. But that one pretty much describes an acid trip, complete with the sweating and all of that. But there's all kinds of great songs on here. Real Life Dream, Permanent Dream is on here. The titles may not mean much to you, but check this out. And I don't have the album, the vinyl of this. The CD, though, has like twice as many songs with all of these great like outtakes and single versions and stuff like that. So check that out as well. Tomorrow is the band from 1967. Yes, they do have a remake of the Beatles' Strawberry Fields Forever, but they all had to, I think it was in everybody's contract that everybody had to have a remake and do that. Finally, the Viagra Boys. Now, I featured this in my top albums of last year. I'm so glad I discovered this. This is called Cave World, and this is like a political album for these days. These guys go off on the whole conspiracy theory stuff, and it's funny. It's biting satire, it's social commentary, and then it gets like really kind of serious and dark at the very, very end to let you know, yeah, this stuff actually has consequences. There's man children displayed on here. There's jerks on here. There's a guy in here that stole another guy's lighter. Hey, that's my lighter. Turns out he's got all the same stuff, but is it because he stole it, or is it because these people, the characters in these songs are so unoriginal, they all have the same kind of, you know, lighters and clothing and boots and whatever. But yeah, check out the Viagra Boys Cave World. This, from what I understand, this is actually getting harder and harder to find. It's a newer release, though. I'm kind of surprised this isn't more readily available. I've got the red vinyl version. I believe it's also available on green vinyl and then just regular black vinyl. But yeah, Cave World from the Viagra Boys. I go in a little more detail on this in my, like I said, my best of 2022 video. But I wanted to make sure I got a 5-star album in here with something a little more new and contemporary, since, you know, I'm talking about Curtis Mayfield and Aretha Franklin and the New York Dolls and all that. So yeah, here's the, this would represent the new stuff. So there it is, 10 5-star albums. If you were really paying attention, though, you'll notice there were actually 11. And thank you for doing that. I love when people pay extra attention. 12 if you count the Donny Osmond joke. Once again, these aren't necessarily my favorite albums of all time. There's albums that are better than this. There are a whole lot of albums that are worse than this. But these are just 10 or 11 5-star albums. Just wanted to make a video of just some 5-star albums that are kind of different from each other, from different eras, different sounds. And I think I just did that. So thank you so much for watching. And thank you to the vinyl community for all the great videos. Keep those coming. And consider giving the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And subscribe if you have not done that yet, please. And once again, thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.